So welcome back to another one of these guitar stories. You guys dug the last one about my old '89 Crackle, and I thought, you know what? Why don't I do one about this guitar? Obviously, a lot of you guys have heard the story of this guitar. I even did a vlog on it when we went and got it many years ago now. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about my guitar story revolving around my '79 Les Paul KM. And if you guys have guitar stories, just like in the other one, please leave them down below. I loved reading the comments from other people who had, these guitar stories. But this is the story of my Les Paul, my number one, my favorite guitar that I own. Here we go. Now all the riffs that I play in here were just off the cuff, improvised, and inspired by the guitar. So that's why this guitar is so, I don't know, it's my favorite guitar. Like if I pick it up, I can't help but write stuff on it. I can't help but come up with riffs. If you don't know what this guitar is, it's a 1979 Les Paul KM. So if you don't know what that stands for, it's Kalamazoo. This is one of the last lines of Les Pauls that was made in the old Gibson factory up in Michigan before they went to Nashville. So the Kalamazoos are kind of interesting because they came with a two-piece top, which wasn't always the thing in the 70s. The 70s is kind of a weird era for Gibson and Fender because it was kind of all about like making stuff as cheap as possible. So you'll have 3, 4, 5-piece tops on some Les Pauls. This also comes with a one-piece mahogany back, which again makes it kind of funky. Has a maple neck, which is period correct for the 70s. A lot of the ones did have maple necks, and a rosewood fingerboard, and the big old 70s shovel headstock. But I didn't know really any of that stuff when I got the guitar. I didn't know it was kind of this more like unique Les Paul for the time period. I just knew that I wanted a Les Paul, and this one fit the bill. Alright, so the story of this Les Paul actually starts with another Les Paul. So to kind of Reader's Digest everything, I wanted a Les Paul all of a sudden. There was this 60s reissue that came into the store I was teaching at, and I played it, and I really, really dug it. Kind of had figured out, I was like, I really want to get this Les Paul. Went in a few weeks later to get the Les Paul, and someone had bought it. My buddy Lenny, I'm looking right at you, dude. He still has it. Bought it like 2 hours before I went in there to get it. And I was so bummed out. Lenny's a buddy of mine, so I'm not bummed out that he got it, but I was just like, man, that was kind of the one. And then, I just kind of like forgot about it, and then time went on, and I posted a status joking around like, it's time for a Les Paul. And my wife saw it, and she was kind of like, I don't care if you get a Les Paul, but it should be an old one, She's like me, I like the older instruments, if possible. I was just like, I'm fine with that, but it'll take a long time to find that. And she happened to get on Guitar Center used, I think while I was teaching, she got on Guitar Center used vintage or whatever, and over in Indiana was this Les Paul. She's like, hey, this thing looks really, really cool. She loved the whole look of it, the aesthetics, and it was a '79. I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's old. It wasn't crazy expensive. The KMs have went up quite a bit now in price, but this one was still, pretty fairly priced, and I was like, wow, this is really, really cool. So we looked into it more, and I called up the Guitar Center. I was like, hey, could I come over and try that? Is there any way you guys could hold this for me? And they're like, sure, just, I think I had to put like $100 down on it. And they're like, we'll hold the guitar for you, we'll give you your money back once you get here if you're serious about coming to try it out. I was like, oh, I totally am. We loaded up and went over there right away. So we pack up, head over there. I think it was like 3 or 4 hour drive from us. And as soon as he opened up the case, I was like, whoa. Like I said, I love the pictures of it. But in person, it was like, it's just a breathtaking Les Paul. Like, it just looked like rock and roll, and I loved it so much. Now, we got there, and I was so excited just to see it. Like, I remember him opening the case, and the case kind of like fell back, and I caught it. He was like, "Whoa, you know, be careful." And I just remember looking at the Les Paul, and I was like, I didn't even need to play it. Like, seeing it in person, like in videos and the pictures, it all looks great. But in person, like, this guitar it just looked like rock and roll, and I loved it. And you know, we're talking to him, and essentially what had happened was a collector had this guitar, and that's why the frets are. I mean, they're 70s low, you know, low wide frets, but they're in really good shape. Not as good shape now because I've played it a bunch. But you know, a collector had this, and he passed away, and his wife sold, I believe, the entire collection to Guitar Center, or you know, whatever it was. But essentially, this has burn marks on it. It was just hanging on a wall, and here's this, like, you know, clean and pristine 79 km, and I'm just like, whoa! I remember I grabbed it, and as soon as I felt the neck, I was like, oh, this is good. It has that interesting neck to it. You know, it's not like a big fat neck. It's not the little 60s neck. It's just it's a thinner kind of like neck. I don't know. I haven't felt it on too many of the Les Pauls. It's very different from my Gold Top. I don't know if you can see it back there. But anyways, so I remember I plugged it in and played a chord, and my wife's like, "All right, I'm gonna go look at something. You just play for a minute." And I was just like instantly in love with this guitar. Like it just had the mojo. Like it's one of those things that you can't describe. It just had that it factor to it. And I remember I was like, I have to get it. Like I have to get this guitar. And so we're talking to him, getting it, trying to pay for it. This is all in the vlog. You can check out the vlog. You know, we get there, we're trying to pay for it. You know, my bank declines the purchase. Like, hey, someone, you know, Indiana's trying to buy this guitar. And I'm like, no, it's me. It's me. Please let the purchase go through. So we were having trouble with the bank, you know, allowing the purchase and all these different things. So we finally got it figured out. And I just remember I was like, I found my Les Paul. There it is.
There she is.
Man. I'll say it one more time. Dat mojo.
Oh my god. You cannot say that again.
It's true. Oh, man.
So, do you promise to shut up about Les Pauls now?
Yeah, I don't even think I need any more guitars.
You always say that.
There's something special about Strats, Les Pauls, Tellys, and when you find the right one, whether it's Gibson or I don't care about any of that stuff, but you know, this was the right one for me, and I knew it, and from that point on, I played this guitar so much, I still play it. It became my number one, you know. Now, what's interesting is we didn't really know kind of the finer details about this. You know, it said KM on it. We didn't really know what that meant. And I just knew that I loved everything about it. It sounded really good. It was twangy. It sounded more like a Telly than like the Les Pauls that I had played. I'm like, oh, that's the sound I want, that Telly on steroids. At the middle position, that's the, you know, it gets that pagey kind of vibe. You know, or you can do like the full rock mode. It's still, you know, it's snappy and responsive, and part of that's probably the maple neck. And it's just like, I didn't realize so many things were special about this guitar whenever I got it until later. I started like really looking into it. I was like, oh man, that huge headstock, which I actually really like the big 70s headstocks on the Les Pauls, you know, that shovel style. The KMs, like I said, it was one of the last lines of Les Pauls made in the Kalamazoo factory before they all transitioned to Nashville. As far as the 70s, having a two-piece top was pretty rare. You know, you'd have 4 or 5 piece tops. You know, the 70s was all about making these guitars cheaper. You know, also has a one-piece mahogany, a very beautiful one-piece mahogany back to it, and of course the Gibson T-tops, which if you don't know about these, DiMarzio sued them. I believe this is the only line that Gibson ever produced that came with the double cream T-tops in it, because they got sued by DiMarzio and they had to stop making them. So they could do zebra, they could do black, you know, but they couldn't do double cream. And you know, I love this guitar so much. I got the tone or the volume pots replaced in it, but I still have them. But other than that, the guitar is 100% original. Like, this is exactly how it came on it. Has the volute on the back of the headstock. I don't know. I just love everything about this guitar. So this one, I've never played any shows with it. It's one I would honestly probably never take out. I did take it with me finally out of the house for the first time. I went down to Nashville and I was doing some videos at Blackbird Studio for Rev. So I'll have some clips of that stuff too. But that was the first time I'd ever left the house. You know, this guitar, for one, it's heavy, so I really don't want to play it live. But it just means too much to me. You know, like it has to be in a very safe environment for me to take this guitar, because like I said, I love it so much. It is the one. If I had to get rid of, you know, all my guitars, this would be the last one I would hang on to with, you know, for dear life, and pray that I never have to get rid of it. You know, it's more than a guitar. It's a friend. You know, it's got some battle wounds. And so there you have it, guys. If you don't have a Les Paul or Les Paul style guitar, get yourself one, because you gotta have it, man. There's just something about them. So other than that, I'm gonna jump on out here. If you guys want more of these guitar stories, I got some other guitars with some other stories, and you know, we can just kind of dig through them. But this is the story of my 79 KM. Like I said, check out my buddy Austin's video about this guitar. He really, you know, documents it really, really well. And I'm just gonna bounce on out of here. Peace out, homies. Keep on rocking, and we'll see you later. Whoop.